That goddess never would have dreamed that the trash hero she threw into the depths of the dungeon to rot actually possessed a broken cheat-level skill. As long as he wants it, any monster will be frozen solid by his paralysis. Then he stacks on a poison that deals percentage-based damage. No matter how strong the beast is, it can only sit there and wait for death. But even a skill this insane has a fatal flaw. He can't spam the exact same skill on the same target twice in a row. Plus, since his mana was already at 0, our guy had to literally push his body to the brink just to trigger his powers. Facing an endless sea of monsters, even with his burning desire for revenge, his vision started to go blurry. But right at that do-or-die moment, the monsters suddenly started screaming in agony. A massive wave of XP flooded into his body. His level didn't just jump, it skyrocketed to 258. His mana bar refilled instantly, meaning he didn't have to hold back anymore. He started spamming status effects like a madman. As he kept casting, his paralysis skill even leveled up. It evolved into an area of effect skill that hits multiple targets at once. Now the monsters were really in for a bad time. He just casually strolled through them, weaving between their frozen bodies. One by one, he tagged them with poison, and the countdown to their funeral began. Taking a breather, he finally had a second to check out his stat panel. Looking at it, every single stat had multiplied by hundreds of times. And as the monsters kept dropping like flies, his level just kept climbing. Nobody could stand in his way. That bitch of a goddess who dumped him here was finally going to pay the price. His level and stats were hitting the roof. In just about 2.5 minutes, he hit level 500. Even his mana reached a staggering 5-digit number. But right as he was getting hyped about his insane power-up, the remaining monsters saw how brutal he was and ran for their lives. He didn't bother chasing them down. Instead, he started scavenging through the human remains on the ground, finally finding a few useful items. If he wanted to make it out of this hellhole alive, he needed food and water pronto. But unfortunately, this place was a literal monster playground. Aside from human bones, there wasn't a single edible thing in sight. To keep from starving, the starving hero had no choice but to eye the monster carcasses. But after a few tries, he realized these monsters weren't exactly organic. Their bodies were covered in nothing but rock-hard armor plating. Even the eyeballs, the only soft part, were completely worthless as food. Left with no options, he just lay on the ground to conserve his energy. That's when he noticed something strange about the magic pouch he found. He poured some mana into it, and you won't believe it. He actually found delicious beef jerky and some soda inside. He had no idea how the logic worked. But when you're that hungry, who cares? After a feast, he officially started his journey to explore the ruins. Wherever he went, even the baddest monsters would just line up like good little boys and quietly wait for death to come. After days of this cold-blooded slaughter, his level hit 665. During his trek, he stumbled upon several secret rooms. They were filled with the skeletons of people who had literally starved to death. After inheriting their loot, he found a letter in the very last room. It revealed the identity of the deceased. The guy claimed to be the former strongest dark hero. Because he was a threat to the goddess, she forcibly teleported him here to help someone else get revenge on her. He left a little gift for whoever came next. A full collection of forbidden books, plus some extra forbidden spell scrolls. This was clearly the dark hero's ultimate revenge kit. After paying his respects to his predecessor, he noticed a line written in blood. It said, "Beware the Soul Eater. Everyone here was slaughtered by him." As soon as he left the room, he quickly found the exit to the ruins. But there was a catch. The door needed a specific key to unlock. That key had to be on the Soul Eater. But considering even the dark hero couldn't beat this thing, does our guy really stand a chance? Even though he'd been grinding monsters and boosting his stats to a god tier level, he still felt a bit uneasy. But he had to try no matter what. After a careful search, he finally tracked down the Soul Eater. It was a terrifying monster with a human face and a glowing gem on its forehead. That had to be the key. He planned to use paralysis to get the drop on it, but the second he peeked out, the Soul Eater lashed out and sliced his hand. Turns out there's a catch. He has to shout the skill name to make it work. So he's totally stuck against this monster that has an auto-counter ability. Just when he's at his wit's end, that Soul Eater, which hadn't moved an inch, suddenly lunges. It opens its mouth and spews out a pool of disgusting mystery liquid. Several human-looking undead spirits quickly crawl out. Our hero realizes the Soul Eater is showing him exactly how these people looked in their final moments. It's just trying to feed off his fear for its own sick amusement. And under the pressure from these spirits, he has no choice but to hit them with paralyze. But hearing the Soul Eater's piercing laughter, he realizes he just can't bring himself to deliver the final blow. Even if these things can't really be called human anymore. Watching him struggle, the monster's expression gets even more twisted with joy. It seems to be savoring its praise, despair right before the end. But this sadistic mind game actually helps him calm down completely. If you love playing games so much, then it's about time I gave you a response. Looking at the monster's arrogant face, a sharp glint flashes in his eyes. He knows damn well that this level of illusion isn't going to stop him. It's not even a speed bump. Turns out this was all part of his plan. That weakness he showed earlier, all just to lower the Soul Eater's guard. No matter how much these undead look like people, if they show intent to kill, he's not going to show a shred of mercy. After all, his motto is blood for blood and an eye for an eye. With a flash of cold steel, the illusions shatter into a million pieces. With the Soul Eater dead, he finally opens that massive door leading to the outside. From this moment on, the real adventure begins. His revenge against the goddess is finally in motion. No one would have ever dreamed, especially not the people who looked down on him, that this trash would actually crawl out of that pile of corpses in the depths of the labyrinth. His level has reached a terrifying 1,789. The irony is those so-called S-rank heroes. Their strongest member is only a measly level 18 before coming for the goddess. He takes a moment to double-check his skill effects. Paralyze at level 3 now has a partial release feature. He can even set his poison to be non-lethal. To test out these new toys, he starts hunting for some monsters. He happens to spot a group of slimes bullying one of their own. It's like looking into a mirror of his own past. But the difference is, even though the tiny slime is getting flattened by its own kind, it refuses to give up. It bravely fights back against its bullies. This sight really hits home for him, since they've been through the same thing. He jumps in and freezes the big slimes in their tracks. Then he tests out his non-lethal poison. Once he confirms the skill works and can be cancelled anytime he chases the big bullies away, he kneels down and praises the little slime for its courage to fight back. He hopes it can keep that same resolve going forward. Without another word, he releases the little guy from his paralysis, gets ready to leave. But surprisingly, the slime seems to have taken a liking to him. No matter where he goes, it just keeps hopping along right behind him. Having no choice, he decides to take it with him. With the slime around, it's like having an extra set of eyes on the back of his head. Now, he doesn't have to worry about anyone sneaking up on him. Plus, luckily the Forbidden Book actually has a recipe for a slime-enhancing potion. But before they go any further, he makes one thing clear. He's going after the goddess for revenge. Staying by his side is going to be incredibly dangerous. Even knowing that, does the slime still want to follow? The slime doesn't say a word. Instead, it rapidly shifts its skin color to show its determination. Meanwhile, the kingdom's princess is deep in the forest running for her life. As her pursuers close in, she feels backed into a corner and decides to go all out. Suddenly, she starts performing a graceful dance right then and there. A set of spirit armor begins to manifest around her. But little does she know, the idiots chasing her have accidentally stumbled right into our protagonist. As members of the kingdom's famous holy guard, they naturally look down on him like he's some dirty brat. The Swordmaster Sig even says it's the perfect chance to test his brand new weapon on a living target. Seeing that they're completely dismissing him, he plays along, acting like a coward and begging them to spare his life. Little did he know this reaction only fuels Sig's sadistic side. The guy raises his massive blade and swings it straight at him. Otherwise, I might just let my guard down. Ignoring their shocked expressions, he realizes these pieces of trash, these guys aren't even as dangerous as the monsters back in the dungeon. Killing them is a total breeze, so there's really no point in him holding back. Anyone who tries to kill him is looking at a one-way trip to the grave. It doesn't matter if they were his former classmates. As our hero unleashes his skills, the kingdom's elite holy guards meet their end right here, in the middle of this nameless forest. After he finishes looting the bodies, he suddenly senses someone else lurking nearby. Meanwhile, the princess is on high alert, only to realize her pursuer's tracks have completely and eerily vanished. In their place is a chilling bone-deep aura. Even the spirits scream a terrified warning at her. In a daze, the princess swings her sword behind her. But to her surprise, it's just a little blue slime that pops out. Before she can react, the MC follows up and paralyzes her where she stands. The princess is completely helpless. Sensing that her intent isn't purely malicious, the MC decides to give her a chance. He's desperate for info on this world right now. As long as she plays nice, he won't have to finish her off. He releases the paralysis on her head so she can finally speak. As they talk, she discovers that he's the one who wiped out the entire Holy Guard single-handedly. She can hardly believe it at first, but she seems to have a way of knowing he isn't lying to her. Seeing him as her savior, she decides to tell him everything she knows. According to her, they're no longer in the kingdom where he was first summoned. That curse mark on his hand isn't just some old writing. Even if he can't read it, legends say there's a forbidden witch who holds all the world's dark secrets. She would definitely have the answers. She's currently in a place called the Land of Abandoned Monsters. It's the most lethal zone in the heart of the continent. Having the info he needs, he stops giving the princess a hard time. To be safe, he doesn't lift her paralysis yet. He tells her it'll wear off in a few minutes. Well, after he's gone, it means she'll be defenseless for a bit, but that's not his problem. The goddess has no clue that the trash hero she threw away actually fought his way out of that hellhole. He's a powerhouse now, and with a level in the 4000s. He absolutely eclipses everyone else in this world. It's no stretch to say he's now the world's strongest man. But to pull off his revenge against the goddess, he goes undercover, into town to dig for intel. A female guard mentions that the Marquis is hiring dungeon crawlers. Coincidentally, the bone powder needed to level up his slime is right there too. He joins the expedition as a mercenary that same day. The Marquis promises 300 gold coins to whoever brings back the Dragon Eye Holy Grail from the depths. Plus, adventurers get to keep whatever loot they find. He's relieved to hear that, since he just wants to keep a low profile. But while waiting in line, he spots a creepy blonde guy harassing a girl in a black robe. The creep thinks she's a knight from a fallen kingdom, maybe even the Holy Knight Captain. Apparently, he tried hitting on her before, and she shot him down. Now he's looking for some payback. He doesn't care if she denies it, since rumors say that Captain is a total knockout, and specifically, a high priestess among the Holy Knights. My real name is Prazenixtus. Hey matey, I'm totally scoring with her. Watch me work. I'll show everyone what I can do. She's not getting away from me. The blonde is delusional and won't back off. He's holding a serious grudge over her cold shoulder. He vows to get even as he leaves. After the drama, the MC bumps into the girl again while stocking up on supplies. Being a decent guy, he tells her to watch her back around that creep. He's seen his share of lowlifes who'll kill over a bruised ego. He also happens to need a guide for some shopping, so he asks if she can help him out. She agrees mostly because she's flat out broke. With her leading the way, he gets his gear sorted in no time. By the next morning, he's heading into the dungeon as planned. He heads into the depths alone, ready for the long grind. As he pushes further into the maze, our main man finally realizes just how insanely strong he is as his hidden talent starts coming out in the heat of battle. Monsters that would make regular adventurers run for their lives are light work for him. One shot of paralysis plus some poison, and they're done. But the experience points from these things are honestly pathetic. Just then, he happens to overhear that blonde scumbag from earlier, plotting with his cronies to get back at the girl. Hearing all the disgusting trash coming out of that guy's mouth makes him feel sick to his stomach. So he goes with his classic move, putting his hands up like he's begging for mercy to lower their guard. And then bam, he hits him with a paralysis proc. Just like that, the blonde prick and his gang are basically sitting ducks. How's that for a trick, haha? After dealing with those losers, he goes on a monster slaying spree. The absolute state of those corpses, though, it's enough to scare the life out of any other adventurers nearby. They all start booking it toward the exit just to stay safe, which is exactly what he wanted to see. With the coast clear, he makes his way through without any trouble, and reaches the secret chamber of the dungeon. Even with the Dragon Eye Chalice sitting right there on the altar, he doesn't rush in. Because let's be real in these places, the statues guarding the loot are always about to spring to life. And wouldn't you know it? The trap goes off exactly as he figured it would. Right then, he notices that girl from before has suddenly appeared at the entrance. She thought she was moving fast, but she's shocked to see he already beat her to the punch. He just shrugs and hands the chalice over to her. I mean, he couldn't care less about that thing. What he's actually after is the Skeleton King, hidden right under the altar. Still, the girl isn't the type to just take a handout and walk away. She's broke right now, but she offers up her sword instead. Basically, she wants to be his personal bodyguard. He can tell she's got a strong sense of honor and gratitude, so he doesn't turn her down. After seeing what she can do in a fight, he asks her if she knows anything about those golden-eyed monsters. Word is, those things give out a ton of experience. They're basically the ultimate farming target for heroes from another world. But because they're influenced by some special magic from the Archdemon Emperor, their most violent instincts are cranked up to 11. Hearing this, he finally figures out why his levels have been skyrocketing. Turns out that abandoned dungeon was actually a nest for those golden-eyed freaks. Once he's got all the details, he introduces his slime to the girl. Then he tells her to get some sleep since she's clearly exhausted. After all, it'd be a real pain for him if she passed out while they were out adventuring. Right here and now, even those stuck-up heroes couldn't touch him if they tried. That arrogant goddess never would have guessed in a million years that the useless guy she treated like a bug would clear the dungeon and become the strongest person alive. All because that trash status effect skill of his is actually a broken conceptual tier ability that never ever misses. No matter how tough the monster is, he just needs one paralysis hit to freeze them in place. Ing! And then a splash of poison. After that, they've got no choice but to stand there and wait for the end. Take this guy, for example. The Skeleton King, an Abyss-class monster hiding deep in the ruins. Even top-tier adventurer squads would be running for the hills. Even the elf girl who used to be the captain of the Holy Knights panics the second she sees him. She knows her own strength isn't enough to even keep him safe. But right then and there, our guy ends the fight in a heartbeat. Once the Skeleton King is dealt with, he finds the materials he needs to level up his slime. But just as he's about to head out, the slime senses something weird inside the Skeleton King's corpse. Following its lead, he finds a certain item, a monster's gallbladder wrapped in pure mana. He's not sure what it is, but he doesn't overthink it, and just takes it back to the surface. He completely ignores all the other adventurers who are busy freaking out over the Dragon Eye Chalice. That night, he pulls the elf aside to talk. He tells her he wants to hire her as his guard. See, he's heading to the land of monsters to find the Forbidden Witch, and that place is crawling with enemies. Having a pro watching his back would be a huge help. Hearing this, the elf hesitates. It's not that it gets in the way of her own goals, but she's got some secrets she's hiding. But he just lays all his cards on the table, telling her he's known who she really was for a long time. All because of that sleep magic she used. Realizing the jig is up, she stops the act and reveals her true self. Turns out an elf's disguise wears off the moment they fall asleep. That's exactly why she was so hesitant when he invited her along. But since he already knows her secret, their deal to travel together is officially set in stone. Soon they start prepping to head out on a brand new adventure. As for her payment as a bodyguard, our guy just casually tosses her a blue gemstone. The second she sees it, the elf completely loses her cool. I mean, this is the legendary Azure Dragonstone, and they're incredibly rare. It's worth way more than some Dragon Eye Chalice. Hearing that, even he was surprised. He had no idea the shiny rock he just picked up was actually that valuable. But a gift is a gift. No matter how much she tried to refuse, he played the tough guy and forced her to keep it. The next day, the elf had to attend a banquet hosted by the local lord. They agreed on a time and place to meet up later, and then went their separate ways for a bit. But when the time came, she was nowhere to be found. After overhearing some local gossip, he realized that banquet was actually a massive trap set by the Lord, and the ones doing the dirty work. None other than the Black Dragon Knights, the strongest in the land. Meanwhile, the elf barely managed to escape and is currently being hunted. Her illusion magic was violently shattered, leaving her in a daze. She can't even transform right now. Facing the overwhelming power of the knights, she's quickly backed into a corner. She managed to take out the low-level grunts, but a commander suddenly ambushed her from behind. As he spat out some disgusting insults, the elf accidentally slipped and fell. Seeing his chance, the man kicked her sword away. He pinned her down so she couldn't move an inch. Looking at his hideous, leering face, she just closed her eyes in pure despair. Right then, his voice suddenly rang out. "Get your hands off her! Our guy literally kicked that knight into next week." Looking up at him, the elf's face lit up with total shock and relief. As the knight tried to lunge back at him, he just barked out a warning. "Sorry, pal." Even though he'd just saved her life, her first thought wasn't yay. She was terrified for him. She was worried that if he stayed with her, he'd just get killed. She tried to give the stone back and cancel the deal. He just sighed and tossed her another bag. "Forget about the contract. Just take this and let's go." The goddess has no idea. While her S-rank hero is out there bullying low-level mobs, the guy she threw away like trash is standing toe-to-toe with Severe, the man they call the strongest human alive. But even against a monster like that, our guy just hits him with a paralysis spell. Now he can't move a muscle. Then he follows it up with a nasty dose of poison. All Severe can do is scream in agony while he waits for the end. But wait just a little while ago, things were looking pretty grim for our hero. He was trying to grill a captured soldier, when suddenly a spear came crashing down from the sky. And the man behind it, it was none other than the legendary Severe Gardlin. Just looking at the guy, you could feel this insane, terrifying pressure. Our guy knew he was in deep trouble. Severe was way out of his range. He had to find a way to close the distance, but Severe, he's so powerful that he hasn't had a real challenge in forever. He didn't even see those two as a threat. To kill some time, he decided to have a little chat. He told the elf exactly why she was being hunted. It was all ordered by the king of the Holy Kingdom. The king has been obsessed with her beauty. From the very first moment he saw her, he became a total creep. Once she left, he couldn't stand the thought of her being with any other man. That toxic obsession was literally eating him alive. But then, the arrogant knight decided to give her a chance. If she could beat him in a duel, he'd let her walk away. He was mostly just curious to see the legendary elven armament. But suddenly his focus shifted. For some reason, the elf wasn't the most interesting thing there anymore. He was staring at our guy. He wanted to know who this nobody really was. The MC felt a sudden chill down his spine. Severe was still way out of range, facing an enemy who could end him in a heartbeat. He knew he had to be incredibly careful. But the strongest human clearly has some insane instincts. He didn't just see through the MC's plan to get close. He even knew the guy was using a fake name. Facing someone this sharp the MC was? Warrior, I really admire your spirit, the poet said. After all, he'd been searching for an enemy who could actually hold their own against him for a long time. But since the goddess is a close ally of his country, he can't exactly make a move on her. Instead, he's shifted his sights toward the hero from another world. Seeing the poet's arrogant attitude, our guy realized he might have just found his path to victory. To set the trap, he came clean about being an isekai hero and told the poet he was down to be his rival, ignoring everyone's shocked stares. To make sure the poet didn't realize he was lying through his teeth, he kept his story intentionally vague. He claimed his situation was unique, saying the goddess ordered him to work separately from the other heroes. Seeing him get this special treatment, the poet assumed he must have some insane level of talent. So when he heard the guy wanted to leave for a bit and come back to kill him once he got stronger, the poet didn't even get mad he actually decided to let him go. He even promised that one day in the future, they'd have a real showdown. But just as the poet made his cool exit and turned his back, a mocking smirk suddenly flashed across our hero's face. Nice try, but this is as far as you go. Whoa, I'd expect nothing less from a guy like you. With the poet now completely paralyzed and unable to move, the MC wasted no time injecting him with a deadly toxin. And the guy definitely lived up to his title as the strongest human. Someone who can still force themselves to move while paralyzed. That's a first for our MC. Little does the poet know, his struggling is only going to speed up his own death. Still, just to be safe, the MC decided to go all out and tap into his strongest state, just in case. Right then, the enemy's backup arrived. While the poet was desperately screaming at his men to attack, the MC stayed completely chill. Even though this new form takes a bit of prep time and constantly drains a massive amount of mana while it's active, those downsides aren't nearly enough to outweigh how insanely broken this new power is. The new skill he unlocked is called Berserk Infusion. It plants a violent impulse directly into a person's mind, while also paralyzing them. Stacking these abilities should make killing enemies a total breeze. Plus, his Darkness Infusion can completely blind them. Thanks to these convenient test subjects, the MC quickly realized just how terrifyingly powerful his new skills really are. His expression turned cold and detached, like he was a totally different person. Basically, the tables have completely turned. The goddess never imagined in her wildest dreams that this trash hero she looked down on like an ant would crawl out of that dungeon with the power to kill a god. With a flick of his wrist, he wiped out the Black Dragon Knights, the guys supposedly known as the strongest humans alive. Even the elf girl famous for being the most beautiful woman in the world has completely fallen for him. But despite her obsession, the MC doesn't give a damn. His only focus right now is getting his revenge on that goddess. He headed to the capital to dig up some intel, but first he needed to find a place to crash. To save some cash, the elf suggested they just share one room. Hearing this, our guy felt a bit insulted. I mean, I'm a grown man. Why would I be scared? So he just went with it and agreed. After humoring the elf's little request, the two of them headed to a tavern. According to the locals, a group of sorcerers is trying to take credit for wiping out the Black Dragon Knights. People aren't totally buying it, but for the MC, this is actually great news. He needs to keep a low profile until he finds a way to delete the goddess for good. To do that, he needs to find the Forbidden Witch who can translate ancient texts. The key intel he needs is held by the capital's strongest blood fighter, the Madwoman. To get close to her, the MC posed as a scholar hungry for knowledge. But no matter how much he sweet-talked her, she was clearly on guard about the topic. And she bailed pretty quickly. Still, it proves she really does know where the witch is hiding. As the MC walked back to the inn, lost in thought, he suddenly realized he forgot to grab food for Slimy. So he had to pull out that old bag that spawns modern-day snacks. After taking just one bite, the elf was instantly hooked on this otherworldly food. In all the excitement, she totally forgot how close she was getting to him. With the tension in the room starting to feel a bit steamy, the MC suggested seeing her spirit armament. Honestly, no matter how many times he sees it, this whole magical girl transformation thing, our boy is still getting hyped up. Watching the elf girl's flashy swordplay, he suddenly feels the urge to level up his close combat game. After all, he's relying way too much on his skills right now. You never know, this might just save his skin when things get hairy. The elf isn't about to hold back any secrets, so she tells him to come at her right then and there. Even though he gets pinned by the elf in less than 2.5 seconds their intense sparring session, it still leaves them both covered in sweat. So while doing the laundry, the elf sneaks a sniff of him, breathing in that scent that makes her feel so safe. Hey, where are you looking? I'm not. The vibe gets super awkward for a second, but luckily, it seems like he didn't notice her little move. The next day, the two of them head to the arena to find the Berserker lady. She's the top-ranked fighter there, but word is she started out as a slave sold to the arena. Her very first match caused a massive stir. And in the 3 years since then, She hasn't lost even once. Tomorrow is her final bloodbath. But that's not all. The elf also dug up some juicy intel. Apparently, the berserker lady saved up enough to buy her freedom 2 years ago. The only reason she's still grinding is that she's trying to buy freedom for a little girl too. More importantly, the Duke's family running the place loves profit, so they usually rig the fighters' final matches. This might be exactly the opening our boy needs to make his move. The goddess never would have dreamed that the trash hero she cruelly threw away would become this cold-blooded after leaving the dungeon. Even if someone's unarmed, if they're even a tiny threat, he'll drop them straight into hell without blinking. Just a bit ago, to find the Forbidden Witch, he tracked down the strongest fighter in the kingdom, the berserker lady. He tells her straight up that the Duke won't let her leave alive. If she teams up with him, he'll make sure both she and her dark elf sister get out of there in one piece. Seeing her still skeptical, he flexes his power. It wasn't just the strongest human who died by his hand. He wiped out the entire Black Dragon Knight Order all by himself. To prove it, he reaches out and triggers a paralyze effect, freezing her right in her tracks. Plus, with the elf showing her true colors, the berserker lady finally has to face the truth. Everything he said is real. But even then, she's not ready to cooperate. In these last 2.5 years, she's brought the Duke countless victories. She believes that as long as she wins tomorrow's final match, the Duke will definitely set her and the little dark elf girl free. Our boy feels a bit frustrated hearing this. But he can only warn her that the Duke is going to rig the match. If she changes her mind, he'll be waiting for her by the city gate tomorrow morning. Then he and the elf head out. On the way, they run into the guys claiming they're the ones who cursed the Black Dragon to death. It's the sorcerer squad from the Knights. These losers use that fake reputation to bully everyone in town. The elf is about to lose it and step in. But our boy stops her. He's got a much better plan. He casts berserk on all those followers, making them tear each other apart. That way, even if they all die, nobody can trace it back to him. Meanwhile, the berserker lady is lying in bed feeling uneasy. Just to be safe, she decides to check in on the Duke's real thoughts. But as soon as she gets outside his room, she hears him planning to drug her before the fight. Once she loses, he's going to skin her alive. Let the champion wear it. By then, the hype in the blood arena is going to be absolutely insane. As for that dark elf girl, the Duke's decided to keep her in his private collection for a while. Once he's bored, he's going to ship her off to some shady back alley joint. At this point, the leopard girl couldn't take another second of this. Fuming with rage, she tracks down our hero and tells him she'll lead him straight to the witch. But only on one condition. He has to keep that dark elf girl Liz safe and sound. Meanwhile, Liz is slaving away at a restaurant. It's a total nightmare. She's stuck dealing with creepy customers constantly hitting on her, not to mention the nasty lady running the place who's always bullying her. Just as the boss is getting ready to vent more of her twisted frustrations, our guy suddenly bursts through the door. Seeing the state she's in, he completely loses it, drawing his sword to end that woman right there. But the boss immediately drops to her knees, begging for mercy. She swears she was just disciplining Liz because the Duke ordered her to. She claims she was only doing it to stay alive. Hearing that the leopard girl starts to feel a little bit of pity, she warns the boss that if the Duke comes asking, just tell them they fled to the south. The boss agreed to the plan without a second thought. Not only that, she even apologized to Liz for her past shittiness, squeezing out a few fake crocodile tears. Little did she know, while her acting might fool two innocent girls, it wouldn't fly with our protagonist who grew up in a house full of violence. The second he slammed his fist against the wall, Liz flinched and curled up in fear. That one move confirmed everything. He knew the boss wasn't sorry at all. Bullies love to bang on things while they're screaming at you, making as much noise as possible. It gives them a rush, but for the victims, it's pure psychological torture. Just thinking about how this woman could go on living a peaceful life after doing all those horrible things made him absolutely livid. So he just paralyzed her right where she stood. You haven't been seen for days. Can't you even afford a $3 meal? Stark Itoniana still hasn't received the pay that's rightfully hers. She didn't get that $100 commission even after listening to that 14-minute conversation. But I can still hear those faint voices now. I can still see Elon here, but if I see you and get no response, I'll just have to tell him to go find his own lost belongings. You remembered to look for him in the snow. Can't you hear it by now? That feeling really sends shivers down your spine like every echo has just vanished. Mostakio hata staminata sudango. Those incantations are surging through the air. No matter how crazy the enemy gets, the ending is already set in stone. She's honestly just a hopeless idiot. Umai muremu. A scent of destruction instantly filled the air. After dealing with the boss, the group headed toward the city's sewer exit. They managed to slip out of the city from there, but to their surprise, an assassination squad was waiting for them. It was unexpected, but for our guy, anyone who stands in the way of his revenge against the goddess is as good as dead. That goddess has no idea. While her superheroes are still grinding skills in the starter village, the trash-tier protagonist she looked down on has already mastered godlike powers in the depths of the dungeon. Facing a group of casters who claimed they could curse anything to death, he just sent the elf out as bait to draw their fire. Then, right when their leader thought he had everything under control, he made his move. What makes you think you can take me out in a second? That kind of provocation is a literal death wish. Their ignorance sealed their fate. Every look from the protagonist radiated cold, murderous intent. Every bit of humiliation he once suffered was being paid back in full. Not even a so-called elite squad could slow him down. The mana in the air spiked to the limit in an instant. All their plans looked pathetic in front of him. These enemies had no clue that the Grim Reaper had already arrived. In the blink of an eye, he triggered his skill again. Why do you think you could ever one-shot me? It's beyond ridiculous. In less than 2.5 seconds, every single cultist was paralyzed on the spot, left with nothing to do but wait for death. But this was only the beginning. Besides these cultists, the Duke's main army was already on their way. At first, he planned to just use his paralysis attribute to wipe out the pursuers in a head-on fight. But at the last second, he realized his paralysis skill actually had a limit on the number of targets it could hit at once. It was a bit of a surprise, but nothing the battle-hardened protagonist couldn't handle. Since paralysis was temporarily off the table, he used his darkness attribute to strip away their vision, which worked like a charm. Against a bunch of soldiers who suddenly went blind, the strongest blood fighter went to work carving through them like she was slicing vegetables. After a few rounds of slaughter, the Duke saw things were going south. The man who was acting all high and mighty just a moment ago completely lost his nerve. Even though his legs were shaking like jelly, he still talked tough, claiming he'd make them pay in blood later. Our guy just hit him with a casual paralysis spell, and the brainless Duke officially lost his head. With the pursuers dealt with, night finally fell. Watching Liz sleep soundly in the warrior woman's arms, the elf offered her own lap as a pillow, saying it might help him sleep better. Not one to back down, he told her she could use his lap too. Hey, were you actually worried about me just now? You looked kind of cute. After that little moment, their bond grew even stronger. They finally reached the monster zone where the Forbidden Witch lives. From here, they just needed to follow the map the warrior woman had to find the witch's hideout. Meanwhile, the goddess was finally making her move. Realizing her S-rank heroes had high levels, but zero actual combat experience, she went out of her way to find the world's top mentors to act as their instructors. On top of that, she handpicked a specific trial ground that was perfect for hardening those heroes. Little did she know, while her S-rank heroes were still grouping up to leech experience, the trash she kicked into the dungeon was already tearing through the hellish Forbidden Zone all by himself. Even those massive monsters that the strongest warriors wouldn't dare fight head-on were instantly paralyzed the moment they stepped into his range. He'd then casually slap a berserk status on them, and their massive bodies would literally shatter from the strain of trying to move while paralyzed. As the monsters dissolved into a mist of blood, the level-up notification he'd been waiting for finally rang out. Looking at his level 1,798, he finally gave these forest monsters a little bit of credit. But while he was gathering materials, he suddenly sensed something very strange in the air. The group looks around frantically but can't find a single trace of a monster. That's when Slime points at the backpack, and there it is, the monster egg our boy picked up after wrecking the Skeleton King. As the shell starts to crack, a snow-white little pony pops right out. Now the High Elf knows plenty of spirit creatures, but she's never seen one quite like this. And the second this little guy is born, it's already head over hooves in love with our main man, seeing that he doesn't hold back. With the elf's guidance, he starts the soul contract process. The pony obediently bows its head, accepting his power. This contract energy flows between them, forging a rock-solid bond. He can feel his mana evolving. In this brutal forest, he's finally got himself a truly loyal partner. Next up, they're heading even deeper into the woods. There's some serious prey waiting for him in the shadows. He just smirks into the distance, his eyes burning with pure fighting spirit. All those people who used to look down on him, they're gonna pay. Every single traitor is going to end up shaking in fear. As his strength keeps hitting new heights, the entire world is about to get flipped upside down. He whispers to the pony, "You ready? Let's move." He triggers his mana-releasing organ, and in just 2.5 seconds, that little pony evolves straight into a massive black steed. The elf is absolutely floored. She never imagined this creature transformed just by soaking up raw magic. Seeing that the pony has already sucked up 1,000 mana and still looks hungry for more, he doesn't hesitate to crank up the output. I mean, for a total cheat code of a guy who's over level 1,000 mana is basically the cheapest thing he owns. After devouring over 10,000 mana, the pony finally hits its ultimate evolution. Legend says the god Odin's mount was an 8-legged beast called Sleipnir. Thinking of that, he decides to name the pony sleigh. Meanwhile, the hero party is back there having a chill time leveling up. With the instructor doing all the heavy lifting, the rest of them just have to step in for the easy finishing blows on weakened monsters. But honestly, this easy mode leveling is really ticking off the golden-haired guy. He thinks the instructor's help is just a straight-up insult to his god-tier talent. But when night falls, the instructors suddenly pick up on a terrifying presence. They realize that these heroes aren't even close to being ready for a monster of this caliber. And facing a threat this big, they don't have the luxury of sharing XP anymore. Before they can even finish the thought, the instructors team up and slice through 2 monsters instantly. But before they can even catch their breath, the heroes realize with horror that there's a whole pack of these things coming for them. Seeing his chance, the golden boy struts to the front. His unique skill has already hit level 4. For monsters like these, one blast of his flames is enough to turn a whole crowd into charcoal. He wants the entire world to see exactly what the power of a future king looks like. But let's leave that show off to his ego trip for a second. Our boy has already reached the Forbidden Witch's territory thanks to Slay. If they can just get through this cave, they'll find her. But right when they're feeling hopeful, a bizarre monster suddenly drops from the sky. Before he can even say a word, the leopard girl reflexively draws her blade and hacks it down. Looking at the lifeless body, he gets a really bad feeling about this. Sure enough, a second later, the corpse explodes, turning into a flare that shoots into the sky. Following that is a bone-chilling screeching wail. The sound echoes through the entire forest, calling every monster for miles to swarm their location. The situation turns south in an instant. He realizes they're about to be completely surrounded. Every second they hesitate is another second they're closer to death. A massive wave of enemies is closing in fast. The forest is instantly lit up by the fires of battle. Every move he makes has to be perfect. The only way forward is to carve a path through the carnage. And watching all this from far away, the goddess goes from smugly mocking him to looking absolutely terrified. This was definitely not in her script. She never dreamed that the trash loser she threw away could be tearing through a mob of berserk monsters like a god of war, especially on that mythical mount. All he has to do is fire off his tentacles, and the monsters go so crazy they start ripping each other apart. But that chaos only buys them about 2.5 seconds. The smarter monsters just end up devouring their weaker comrades to get even stronger. Seeing that he has to switch things up, he uses his paralysis skill to force their feet to the ground. But as time ticks away, more and more monsters join the hunt. He starts feeling the pressure. It's like an endless tide that just won't stop coming. His stamina is finally hitting its limit. If he doesn't wrap this up soon, they're going to be buried under this mountain of beasts. Looking at the ocean of monsters, he knows he needs to end this fast. The clock is ticking, especially since his fusion skill with slime has a very strict time limit. He's burning through mana every single second. If this keeps up, he's going to get swallowed whole by the swarm. But obviously he isn't just going to roll over and die. He knows the only way to survive is to level up and refresh his status. Remembering that those human-faced monsters give massive amounts of XP, he makes a hard turn and dives headfirst into the middle of the pack. While the monsters are still dazed, he strikes first, using his darkness skill to rob them of their sight. He moves like a total reaper, weaving through the horde and taking them out. But as he spams his skills without holding back, even while he's locking the monsters down, his mana is absolutely tanking. Just as his mana bar is about to hit 0, a human-faced monster finally appears in his line of sight. As long as I keep leveling up, things are bound to turn around. He can see that even with his status refreshed, our hero managed to slay every monster around him, but there are just way too many of them. Before long, a massive swarm appeared behind him again. 2 of those human-faced monsters actually had insanely high intelligence. They even used the corpses of their own kind to block his line of sight, making sure his status-inflicting skills couldn't touch them. Seeing this, he immediately told Sleep to pick up the pace. Then, under the cover of the thick smoke, he leaped off his mount and got right behind those 2 monsters. Then, he hit them with that familiar combo of paralysis and berserks, and the 2 creatures instantly collapsed, twitching until they died. Finally, the tables have turned, and our hero successfully cleared the crisis. His level has reached a staggering 1,929. Now he's got absolutely nothing to hold him back. Staring down the next wave of monsters, he decided he wasn't backing down anymore. He was going to see if he could tear through this so-called hellish forbidden zone all by himself. With a rhythmic slaughter fueled by a soaring battle cry, any obstacle in his path is getting absolutely pulverized. In this moment, he's like a grim reaper from hell, harvesting souls left and right. Meanwhile, those S-rank heroes serving the goddess are still shaking in their boots. The mere aftershocks of this rampage sent them running for their lives. But soon, the blonde guy noticed something wasn't right. It seemed these monsters didn't even care about the heroes. Only the weak ones were bothering to attack them, as if they were nothing more than pebbles on the side of the road. But even so, just the swarm passing through still cost 2 of the heroes their lives. As an S-rank hero, the class rep couldn't just stand by. He furiously confronted the dark hero who was supposed to be their captain, asking why he didn't protect them. At that, the dark hero just burst out laughing. As a high-ranking hero, he's obviously going to put his own skin first. Who cares if those 2 losers are dead? It's not his problem. While the hero party was busy bickering, the leopard girl who went to meet our hero stumbled upon a girl all by herself. Just as she was about to help, a voice boomed from the distance. The sheer pressure of its presence sent a chill right through her. Could it be an even stronger enemy? She pulled the girl close, scanning the area warily. This is the Forbidden Zone, known as the Land of Death for a reason. One slip up here means it's game over forever. The rumbling in the distance grew louder as the battle reached a fever pitch. Our guy is still out there grinding levels like a madman. The system alerts kept chiming in his head. He only has one goal: to become stronger than anyone else. Strong enough to flip this twisted world upside down. Strong enough to make that heartless goddess taste true despair. With the ground soaked in blood and despair hanging thick in the air, only the strong get to keep moving forward. As he whispered a low incantation, every distraction faded away. Only the power in his hands is real now. The carnage continues, and the wheels of fate are turning. Nobody ever thought that discarded loser would become the one to destroy it all. That voice rang out again, revealing the truth behind this cruel game. That goddess in the palace who wanted to crush me. That was Melodacon just now. See? Why is all this happening? That goddess never dreamed that the trash she looked down on would actually find the legendary forbidden magic. From this moment on, his revenge against the goddess is finally within reach. But not that long ago, our hero was actually in a real tight spot. Even with the power from his level-ups, and his mana being practically infinite, the non-stop fighting was starting to take a serious toll on his mind. Plus, Slime and Slape were both hitting their physical limits. As the battle dragged on, the ground was practically a river of blood from all the monster corpses. His level had even broken the 2,000 mark. But no matter how much his mana grew, his physical stamina and his wounds weren't going to heal on their own. Right now, there's only one sneaky high-level human-faced monster left. And this thing clearly figured out how our guy's powers work. Since those status-inflicting skills need a clear line of sight, the monster intentionally wrapped itself in monster corpses while it attacked. That way, he couldn't use his abilities on it. Seizing the chance, it unleashed a barrage of laser beams right at him. In the chaos, our hero got hit by a laser, and Slape even took a nasty fall. Seeing his chance, the monster didn't waste any more time, and rained down a lethal storm of lasers. As smoke and dust completely covered the area, the monster started frantically searching for any sign of him. Haha, too slow. What a shame. It turns out this was all part of the plan. He used his mask as a decoy to grab the monster's attention, making it think it was just a simple trick. Then, while the monster was distracted by the slime coming from the side, our hero leaped into the air and got a clear shot of the monster's true form. And just like that, it's game over. He's the one who walked away from this fight. Even though he's completely drained, thank goodness his friends were there to back him up. He finally made it back to his team. And that night, the elf girl who was worried sick about him, she went out of her way to let him use her lap as a pillow. Then she spoke to him with such tenderness. "I'll stay by your side forever." The twinkling stars above seemed to make the night itself come alive. When our hero finally opened his eyes, he realized the elf girl was already lying peacefully right next to him. Seeing that she was only pretending to sleep, he used a skill to make her drift off for real. Then he gently touched his own lips, stunned by the realization that he'd unknowingly grown to trust her this much. The night passed in silence. The next day, the group finally arrived at the Forbidden Witch's domain. They opened a massive door in the basement, but instead of a room, they were greeted by a vast sky. Then a figure appeared in the distance. "I am Tuka. I came all this way, and everything I've done was for one purpose: to get stronger. Please help me get my revenge. If we can just get our hands on this thing, please lead us in. Decide whenever you remember. The secrets of this forbidden land. I should have let Minos." Teammates, keep in touch with the demi-humans. There was absolutely no way to escape this dimension. In that exact moment, the domain expanded instantly. It scattered across the sky like a sudden downpour of rain. Even in a place like this, they had to fight back with everything they had. An overwhelming surge of magical energy. Sky-shaking Lucifagos,